Hi, Hunter Ellstrom with Hunter Ellstrom Media, trout fishing guide and expert here in the Northern Driftless. On this week's episode, we're going to cover a couple different things for you guys. We're going to cover water temps, and fish health when the water gets warm. We're going to break it down into a three-part series, and we're going to cover late afternoon fishing, and morning fishing. Today I'm out after work, so we're going to break down that late afternoon into the evening bite. That being said, I want to start with water temperature for you guys. Moving into the summer season, as things get warmer out, water temperatures are obviously going to rise in these rivers. So it's a smart idea to bring a thermometer with you. The reason it's smart is trout are most active between 44 and 66 degrees, and anything over 68 degrees is actually detrimental. That being said, that warmer water stresses those fish out as you fight them and bring them in. And even though they might release fine, there is a high probability over 68 degrees that fish is going to die. Some things that you can do to help combat that: you can fish some smaller streams that have more springs flowing into them. You can fish towards the headwaters where there is more springs, or try to fish shaded areas of the river that are in some deeper valleys, especially if you fish in the evenings. Obviously, as you fish in the evenings, that water's had a chance to warm up all day long, so it's probably going to be the warmest it's going to be for the whole day. Today I got a reading, I'm somewhere between 64 and 65 degrees, and that is going to be on that warmer side, but still fishable. One thing I'm going to do is I'm going to try to fish all barbless hooks today and get those fish back as quick as possible, so that way I'm not harming them in any way and have good clean releases. Moving on to part two, and the part that you guys are here for, is what to expect with the bite. We're focusing on caddis pattern and mayfly patterns. During that midday, pushing into the evening, I'm probably going to start indicator fishing, as the fish are going to be down deep in some of those holes, trying to get out of the day's heat. I'm fishing anything from soft hackle caddis patterns to buckskins to some different mayfly nymph presentations or larva presentations, and we're having quite good success. So one thing to break down on today's setup: I've got a 4-weight 8-foot 6-inch rod. It's a Moonshine Drifter 2. I really like this setup, especially for these smaller tight creeks. All the leaders that I get them in the 7.5-foot length. That way I can taper them down to exactly what I want, whether I'm dry fly fishing, whether I'm indicator fishing. So here I've got probably about a 10.5-foot leader set up. I have my first fly down to 4 or 5x, depending on the size. This one I'm running about a size 14. It's somewhere between a caddis and mayfly presentation. It's kind of just an all-around different version of the copper john, and it seems to be working pretty well tonight. And then my bottom fly is going to be a caddis presentation of a buckskin, and that's in size 16 or 18, and that's down to 5 or 6x. One thing I also want to point out is the line that I have on here. I have this on a Scientific Angler amplitude textured line. It's a weight forward line, and that's going to kind of be a good all-around line here in the Driftless. It's going to allow you to throw streamers, it's going to allow you to throw an indicator rig, and it's going to allow you to throw dry flies. And it pairs up really well with this rod. Break down some of these pools and runs and where these fish are sitting so we can bring you guys some action. Stay tuned and enjoy this week's episode. We're bringing you the evening fishing, and remember, water's warm, bring a thermometer, keep those fish healthy before releasing them. Let's get to the river. There you go. That's a little bit better fish. That one's right there in kind of that 14-inch range. We'll let him get back here. Nice spunky fish. So one thing I wanted to point out is the Oro's indicator. I've switched over to these and I've had great success with eliminating some of my tangles on false casts. So it runs through the center, so that way you don't have anything to get tangled on or for it to be overweighted on one side, and your flies lay out a lot nicer. That being said, I want to show you guys one quick little trick here. When you're fishing with smaller line, the only thing I've run into with these is you can see how there's a little bit of a cup in there. So one thing I like to do is I like to press that foam back, press it back, squeeze it, and really tighten it on there, and I don't have as many problems with it slipping. So that's one thing that kind of combats it when you have it on lighter line. That fish again, that one came on the smaller buckskin that I'm fishing, just a little tungsten, size 16 or 18. We've been having some pretty good success. I had to walk into that pool, probably spooked most of the fish out of there to net that one. There's quite a, as you can see, there's a bunch of tree branches and stuff in there, and I wanted to work them around it. So make a couple more casts there. If not, I'm a big proponent for working down or working upstream and covering water. Catch the fish that are willing to bite and move on and find the next one. So as you can see there, that buckskin fly's kind of been killing them tonight. I'm starting to see more fish rise. I might switch over to a dry fly here and try to get some on the surface for you. But other than that, having fun catching them pretty much left and right here on that buckskin. I've already fished this pool a couple times today. Walk downstream, fish one, come back, fish that one, come back, and I can kind of flip-flop and get fish each time. So hopefully we can find a little bit bigger one. I did see a real good one in here earlier, so we'll keep at it, try to get a couple more for you guys, and maybe switch over to dry fly fishing here soon. Well, and as the sun goes down, we switched over to a dry fly to see if we couldn't get any on there, and there's that caddis hanging right out of its mouth. They've been nailing the emergers all day. We'll get this guy back and on his way, try to get a couple more for you guys, but I'm fishing the dry dropper setup. It's pretty hard to see the dry fly in that shadow in the sun, but took a couple casts. Eventually hooked up with one here, and it was a pretty solid fish. So there's that fish for you guys. Nice little 12-incher. Came and sharked it. That one there came on the dropper. They're being a little picky on the top, but that's okay. You're on that dropper and you're still getting those fish that are feeding more towards the bottom. I think I'm just a little oversized on my caddis, but with the light conditions the way they are, I'm not quite able to see it very well. So one thing I could do to help with that is run a double dry. Run one really big dry, and then about 18 inches behind that run a smaller dry. You're probably going to hit on that smaller one, but at least you can see the general area of where your fly is. So when you see him take, you can set the hook. But there you go, another fly on that dry dropper setup. We'll see if we can get you a couple more. There's another one from that same spot. Looks like he was on the dropper again. Well, they're just nice little brown trout on the dropper. So breaking down kind of where I'm fishing right now. As we move in later in the day, these fish are going to move out into these shallow flats. The water's not as warm. They're not going to be quite as afraid of predators. because of that lower light condition, the fish are able to hide a little bit better. That being said, they're moving up here to feed, probably most likely on dries. I know we're getting them on the dropper. You can see them rising behind me. The bugs that I do see coming off are a mixture. I think I've seen some blue wing olives, definitely some like gnats. They're targeting some smaller dries on the top, but just so I can see the fly a little bit better, I decided to run a bigger dry. We have got a couple on that dry fly now, but most of them are still coming on the dropper. Either way, very effective rig to run here closer to the evening, and it's one of my favorite things. I'm still running that same 4-weight, 8.5 foot rod. It's a Moonshine Drifter 2. It's a softer rod. I know it says it's a medium fast. I'm gonna say it fishes more like a medium. It gives you some good control. I'm making, as you can see, some very long dry fly casts there, probably 35, 40 feet. Has plenty of backbone to land some of the bigger fish that are in here, but it still has that power to reach out there. But when you're catching these small ones, it's still fun. It definitely still bends the rod. So fishing it on a 12-foot leader, 11.5 foot, it's fairly long, and yeah, we're starting to get into them here closer to dark on that dry dropper. So let's continue at it, see if we can't get a couple more. I want to get a couple more on that dry fly for you guys. The theme tonight's been caddis, caddis, caddis. That's pretty typical for this time of year, and it's definitely something that you guys should have in your box when you come out to the river here in June. It should stay that way at least for another month. Closing out this week's episode, I want to say thank you guys for watching and tuning in. Stay tuned to part 2 and 3. We're going to bring you guys a morning fish and a midday fish and kind of show you what my tactics are there. We'll probably explore some different rivers. Maybe we'll be back. We had some pretty good luck here this evening. So stay tuned. I appreciate you guys watching. Please like and subscribe. It helps out tremendously, and I can keep these videos coming your way. Until next time, I hope to see you guys on the river, but if not, I'll see you here next week.